A 39-year-old Thakni Devi who used to live in Belagoth village in Bihar's Supal district had lost everything to the ravaging floodwaters of Kosi River in September 2024. With teary eyes and complete hopelessness, she recounted her ordeal and suffering about how her entire family was forced to migrate to another village named Siswa after the floodwaters washed away her only house built on the only remaining piece of land to the family. The family lost their ancestral house, all the meager resources, savings, items of clothing, and money forever. Consequently, her husband Shankar Mandal, 40, who used to do farming in the area, was also forced to migrate to Punjab's Patiala, where he works as a laborer at a lantern factory. Now, Thakni Devi's family is one of the lakhs of people who fall victim to climate change induced displacement every year in Bihar, which is one of the most climate vulnerable states in India. Most of them get scarce help for their resettlement under any climate adaptation initiatives from the government. The cycle of events and tragedy keeps repeating every year as India still has no concrete climate migration policy to address the pressing challenge. Through my research, I found that more than 80% of the youth from Bihar's Khagaria, Supal, Saharsa, and Madhapura migrate to states like Punjab and Delhi as no farming takes place due to the Kosi flood every year. Now, land patterns have changed due to flood water. The water levels fluctuate up and down, which destroys soil fertility as the receded waters leave a back bed of sand. Many families complain of a complete lack of climate adaptation training for local people. This is true for many states like Assam, Odisha, West Bengal, Jharkhand, Uttarakhand, etc., that are witnessing a climate-induced migration. Now, climate change-induced migration has become a silent problem for India and other countries across the world that needs urgent attention and effective climate action. India's internal climate migration is spiraling out of control and poses a greater risk. Although the world is witnessing forced relocation and resettlement of people to different places due to climate change induced natural disasters and calamities, including droughts, other extreme weather events, ravaging floods, climate change fueled and induced diseases, and multiple economic reasons. The international community still has no established legal definition for these climate migrants. Even the United States does not give official recognition to the term climate refugees. It seems as if the world has been sitting on a dominant volcano for around 3 decades without doing anything ever since the first report was published by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC, in 1990, which warned that the gravest effects and consequences of climate change may be those on human migration as millions are displaced or relocated by shoreline erosion, coastal flooding, and severe drought. The main question and concern is about how the world, and particularly India, without an effective climate migration policy, can deal with the number of climate migrants, which is only going to see a sharp increase over the next few years. At least 1.2 billion people could be displaced and relocated globally and migrate to different parts and pockets of the world by 2050 due to natural disasters caused by climate change, as per the Institute for Economics Peace, IEP. Now, figures indicate that more than 376 million people have been forcefully displaced or dislocated due to natural calamities induced by climate change in different pockets and parts of the world since 2008. Now, migration has been one of the effective coping strategies for people affected and impacted, ravaged by conflict, adverse climate conditions, and hardships in the area of their origin. And relocating from climate change vulnerable hotspots to safer areas allows people to navigate through essential survival mechanisms. Moreover, People usually migrate due to economic hardships, political apathy, social factors, and many more personal reasons caused and induced by the climate change crisis. While the global climate action would remain incomplete without a concerted and complete effort by the international community, the world's second largest populated country, India also needs to pay adequate and proper attention to internal climate displacement that is getting worse with every passing year. Why must India particularly pay attention to climate migration? India is one of the most climate vulnerable countries in the world, and around 80 to 90% of the districts across the country are highly vulnerable to climate change crisis. And if you look at the data, more than 67% of India's 1.3 billion population of people reside in rural pockets which are highly dependent on climate sensitive sectors such as agriculture, fisheries, and forestry for their livelihoods. In 2020, India witnessed an internal displacement and migration of around 14 million people due to the climate change crisis and extreme weather events and incidents, as per the Internal Displacement Monitoring Center (IDMC). Moreover, India saw the third highest number of internal displacements as a result of disasters, with the Philippines ranking second and China ranking first in the internal climate migration as per IDMC report 2022. This challenge is only going to worsen. A study by Action Aid and Climate Action Network South Asia in 2021 warned that India alone will see 45 million people being forced to migrate from their homes by 2050 due to climate disasters, 3 times more than the present figures. And with around 3.6 million people witnessing annual displacement and relocation between 2008 and 2019, India already has the highest level of disaster displacement in South Asia and is also one of the highest in the world. The reasons for exponential climate change induced migration are countless, with the primary ones being poverty, loss of livelihood, jobs, decreased agricultural yields and output, unlivable weather conditions, etc. The World Bank estimates state that 40% of Indians will be migrating or relocating to urban areas in the next 13 years to escape the deadly impacts of climate change vagaries in most of the rural parts. Does India have a climate migration policy? Now, despite witnessing an internal climate migration of millions of people over the last few years and decades, India has not paid sufficient attention to chalking out its internal migration policy or law to address this grave challenge. We as a nation still lack a comprehensive policy framework. So far, only 2 attempts have been made to raise the matter of climate migration and displacement in the Parliament of India after a Congress MP from Assam, Pradyut Bordoloi, introduced the Climate Migrants Protection and Rehabilitation Bill as a private member's bill in 2022, and the Rehabilitation and Relocation of Persons Displaced Due to Climate Change Bill in 2022, which was introduced by BJP MP from Maharashtra, Dr. Hina Vijay Kumar Gavit, in July 2022. However, neither these bills were passed, nor has there been any such effective or working national policy developed for millions of people affected by internal climate migrations in India. Many experts strongly feel that India must frame an effective and practical set of climate migration policies with practical challenges in mind as soon as possible to deal with the ticking bomb of climate migrants. Multiple UN reports and the German Watch Global Climate Risk Index rank India as the 6th most climate change vulnerable country in the world, and around 65% of the people surveyed in India revealed that most likely they will relocate due to climate change in the next 25 to 30 years. Although India has the National Action Plan for Climate Change NAPCC, it does not put enough emphasis on aspects related and pertaining to internal climate migration in different parts of India. Now, the United Nations International Migration and Sustainable Development Report 2024 recommends anticipating and planning for climate-related migration is imperative, in particular for vulnerable countries and pockets such as small island developing states. If you want to watch more of such analysis on climate and economy, do subscribe to Sustainability Adda.